I've been at this door since well before you unlocked it, and I've come back worse than I left. Last week you handed me a name on your way out, the wave function, and made me carry it home with the lid shut. You even gave me a glimpse of the rule that works it. Square the thing, you said, and the minus signs fold quietly away. Then you closed the box. So, no mercy tonight, turn the key.
Then here we are, and I mean to turn it all the way. Not the teasing corner I showed you at the threshold, but the working of it. You watched one electron cross two slits as a wave of pure maybe and land as a single whole dot. You asked what that wave is and what the waving means. Tonight, both.
You made promises last week too, mind, and I still went home with engines parked under sheets. So tell me straight before we start, does tonight actually deliver, or do I collect a fourth sheet for my collection?
Tonight delivers the rule, turned and running. You'll leave able to work out where every dot lands, which you couldn't this morning. What you won't get is why it's true at the very bottom, that water stays deep, but the working machine is yours by the end. No fourth sheet on that one.
Then give me the shape of the two answers before we dig. What waves is the name, I take it, this wave function of yours, and what the waving means is the rulebook, the thing that turns a spread-out wave into one dot's worth of odds on a wall.
That's the map, near enough. What waves is the wave function? One wave belonging to the one electron. What the waving means is a rule with a name that squeezes odds out of that wave. And the second is where the surprise lives, because it isn't the rule you'd guess. In fact, you've already guessed the wrong one. I'd bet money on it.
And I'd bet it's the same shape as everything else this course has thrown at me. A rule dead easy to run, with nobody sure why it's true. Every night the same trick. Here's a thing that works, and no, you may not know why yet.
The running of it a child could manage. The meaning of it has swallowed careers. That gap is the subject you're taking. But the running comes first. So let's get the rule into your hands and argue about what it means afterward. Give me your wrong guess. That's the fastest way in.
Gladly, because I half-solved it on the walk home, and I'd rather be wrong out loud than in private. Last week you sold me a fog of maybe. Thick where the electron's likely to land, thin where it isn't. So I decided the wave simply is the odds. Its height at a spot is the chance of a dot there. Ready to hear the rest?
Say it as boldly as you believe it. Don't soften a syllable. Everyone who meets this reaches for the very picture you're building, and it's a fair reach. The bolder you say the wrong thing, the cleaner the fix lands after. So out with it.
Tall wave, good chance. Low wave, poor chance. And where the fog piles highest, the dots crowd thickest. I read the likelihood straight off the wave, the way I'd read a hill off a map. It felt airtight the whole walk home. The wave is the odds. Finished. Now tell me how badly I've fooled myself.
Airtight and wrong. Wrong by a hair's breadth that turns out to be a cliff. The wave is not the odds. It sits one step behind them. The height at a spot isn't the chance of a dot. It's a thing we call the amplitude there. And the odds are cooked out of it by a rule you haven't run yet.
All right, but that has the ring of a distinction with no difference in it. If the amplitude runs tall where the chance is good and low where it's poor, then it's the odds in a smarter coat. Why can't I just treat the amplitude as the chance and spare us both the step?
Because it does one thing a probability is forbidden from ever doing. And once you've seen it, you'll never muddle the two again. So let me show you. Back to the water in your shallow tray. It rolls in crests and troughs. Half of it rides up above the flat, still line. And the other half, where does that go?
Dives below it. The troughs, the water dips under its own resting level and scoops a hollow beneath the line. Crest up, trough down, that's the rhythm of it. I had it cold last week, leaning over your imaginary tray.
You did. So carry it over. If the height at a crest is above the line and the height at a trough is below it, then the amplitude at a trough is a number sitting below nothing. A minus. Now finish the thought because it kills your picture stone dead. If the amplitude were the chance, what have you just claimed the chance is, down in the trough?
A negative chance. A less than nothing likelihood of catching the dot there, which is gibberish, plainly. There's no such creature as a below zero probability of anything. You can't be less likely to happen than never happening.
None anywhere. A chance runs from no hope whatever up to dead certain, and it cannot poke a toe beneath the floor. So the instant the wave dips under the line, and every wave worth the name does, it disqualifies itself from being the odds. A minus chance isn't a small chance, or a strange one. It's a nonsense wearing the word.
Let me rescue my fog before you bury it, because I'm stubborn, and I liked that fog. What if the dip below the line is a wrinkle in the picture? I take the trough, ignore the minus, and read only how deep it goes. The size, never the sign. Then it's positive again, and it can be the odds. Can't I just look away from the minus?
You can look away from it. The minus won't look away from you. And here's why it isn't a wrinkle to sweep off. That below the line half is the working part. It's the thing that lets two waves cancel at the dark bands. The fence you walked in demanding I explain. Throw the minus away, and you throw the fence away with it.
So the minus is load-bearing. I can't file it off, it's holding up the roof. Fine. Second rescue, then I surrender. What if only the crests count? The parts above the line are the odds, and the troughs are the wave being a wave. Off duty, ignored? Keep the tall bits, drop the low ones.
Then the fence would come out lopsided. Bright wherever the wave rose, empty wherever it fell. But that's not the screen either. Here's the puzzle, not an answer yet. Some of the fiercest bright bands seem to sit exactly where the wave dived deepest below the line. If that holds, a deep trough would shine every bit as bright as a tall crest, and you couldn't bench half the wave. Keep the question warm, it's the one that forces the rule.
Then, if that puzzle holds, the deep below places matter as much as the tall above ones. And the sign can't be what sets the odds, since opposite signs would give the same brightness. All right, I surrender the fog, but answer the thing you keep dodging. What is an amplitude, if it's neither the odds nor a thing I can ignore half of?
It's the raw ingredient the odds get cooked from, one step upstream. The wave's real height, sign and all, kept as the wave draws it. Crests up, troughs down, nothing thrown away. It carries more than the odds can, because it keeps the sign the odds aren't allowed to hold. And that surplus, the sign, is what does the cancelling.
So the amplitude is the more basic thing, and the chance is a shadow it casts. That flips what I walked in with, where the chance felt like bedrock, and the wave was a way of drawing it. You're telling me it's the reverse. The wave is the bedrock, the odds are the shadow.
That's the flip, and it's the one to keep. The wave is the bedrock, the odds are the shadow it throws. The chance is what you see, the amplitude is what's true. Get that order backwards, and half the confusion in this subject moves in with you for good. So, how do you turn the true thing into the seen thing?
That's what I want. If I can't read the chance off the height directly, what do I do to the height to get it? You've dangled square it since the door and never let me hold it. So hand it over. What's the recipe?
Take the wave's height at a spot, whatever it is, above the line or below, and multiply that height by its own self. That's the entire recipe. The chance of a dot at that spot is the wave's height there, squared. One move, and it drags the wave out of the red and into a chance you can use.
Squaring, of course. So my fog couldn't be the odds because half the time it owed the universe a negative probability, the sort of thing that gets a man escorted out of a casino. And the cure is to square the debt away. Fine, I concede, and the hair's breadth was a cliff. Now walk me through why squaring is the exact medicine, not a trick you happen to like.
Because a minus multiplied by a minus comes back a plus. You've known it since school, and here it earns its wage. A trough, deep below the line, squared, climbs right back up above nothing. A crest, already above, squared, stays above. Either way, out falls a positive. The minus cannot survive being squared.
So squaring is a little machine that eats minus signs. Feed it any sign at all, out climbs a positive. And that's why a deep trough and a tall crest read the same brightness. Squared, they land the same distance above nothing. The sign got eaten on the way. The size is all that lived through to become the odds.
And there's a second gift riding on top of curing the minus. Where the wave stands tall, its square is large. A fat chance, dots heaping in. Where its height comes to nothing, flat, neither up nor down, its square is nothing too, and a dot never lands there. Mind the word, it's the whole wave's height at a spot that must come to nothing. Later you'll watch two waves meet and sum to flat where neither alone was flat. And that summed to nothing is the true dark band.
So there are readings all along it. Tall wave, either way, squares to a strong chance. Middling wave, a middling chance. Dead flat, where the height falls to nothing, that squares to nothing, and a dot is barred there. Not rare, barred. Is that right? A dark band isn't few dots, it's genuinely none?
Flatly forbidden. Not few, none. Nothing multiplied by itself is nothing, not a small something. Where the total height truly zeros, the odds are zero, and a dot will never fall there if you run it till the stars burn out. That's the hard edge the water tray drew for you, the dead calm spots where the surface never moved. You know now they're places the electron is barred from.
I like that. It's got teeth. Let me say the rule back so it welds on. A wave belongs to the electron. Its height at each spot is an amplitude, sign and all. To get the odds of a dot there, I square that height. The minus dies, the size survives, out falls a plain chance. Tall means likely, flat means never. Have I got it?
Word for word. And it carries a name. The one who first set it down is Born, and we still call it the Born rule. It's the bridge you were missing at the door, the wave function on one bank, the odds of a dot on the other, the squaring the crossing. Hand me the wave, I square it, and I'll tell you where the dots heap and where they never fall.
Good, a name to hang it on. But let me be difficult, because squaring cures the negative, and so would other things. I could just lop the minus off and take the bare size of the wave. That kills the below zero trouble too, and it's simpler. So why squaring of all the cures? What does multiplying it by itself buy that plain flattening wouldn't?
A sharp question, and the honest answer is that nature keeps her books in squares, not bare sizes. A rule read off the world, not chosen for tidiness. But there's a flavour you can feel. Squaring doesn't merely cure the minus, it steepens everything. A wave twice as tall isn't twice as likely. It's far more than that, once squared.
How much more then? Give me the size of the leap.
4 times. Double the height, and the square leaps to 4 times the chance. Treble it, and you're at 9. Squaring is merciless to the timid parts of the wave and generous to the bold. Plain flattening would treat a big wave and a small one far too evenly. The world isn't fair like that.
So a faint amplitude isn't just faintly unlikely, it's crushed toward never, while a bold one runs off with the odds. That's a harsh accounting. The wave doesn't merely rank the places, it exaggerates the ranking, widening every gap between the likely and the doubtful.
Harder than you'd guess. A place where the wave is half as tall isn't half as likely. It's a quarter as likely. The squaring stretches every gap between the bold and the timid, which is what the wall shows. Brilliant bands and near black ones, not a gentle grey wash. The world's odds are steep, and the square is wide.
So the square does 2 jobs in one stroke, kills the minus and leans hard on the tall places. And you're telling me nobody derived it, they simply found it fit?
Nobody derived it, no. Same story as the grains by the fire. Somebody stared at a wave that dips below nothing, needed odds out of it, and squaring was the one cure that made the dots land where the wall said. No grand vision underneath, a rule that worked. Whether nature had a deeper reason to pick it, she did, and it's lovely. That waits for the clocks.
I'll take it on the world's authority, the way I took the grains. So I've got the rule and I trust it. But a rule I can turn is worthless if I can't turn it on the thing I came for. And I came for the fence. The stripes, the far slit reaching across the room to darken a spot. That's the debt. Does the squaring rule pay it?
In full, and with change to spare. The fence comes straight from this rule, and one small step in how you apply it. Come with me to the 2 slits. 2 slits, 2 waves, 1 fanning from each gap. At a spot on the screen, both arrive at once. 2 amplitudes on the same place, a height from the left slit, a height from the right.
Right, and I want the odds of a dot there. So, do I square each one and add the 2 chances? That's my instinct. Get each slit's chance, add them, there's the total. 2 roads in, add their odds. Isn't that how chances always work?
That is how ordinary chances work. And it's exactly the wrong order here, and the wrongness is the lesson. Don't square each and add. You add the 2 heights first, into one combined wave, a single height that's the sum of the 2. And then, on that total, and only then, you square. Add first, square second. Reverse it, and the fence dies on the page.
Add the raw heights first, square the total after. All right, walk me through a bright spot in that order, something gentle. Take a place where both waves arrive as crests, both riding up above the line together in step. I add the 2 heights, a taller crest still, then I square that, and out comes
A fat chance. A bright band thick with dots. 2 crests added to one tall wave. The tall wave squared to a strong likelihood. Nothing strange yet. The loud water slamming double from last week, now cashed into odds.
in step, crest with crest, adds tall squares bright. That's the water tray with a coat of paint on it, so slide me along to where it stops being tame.
Gladly. I slide your eye along the wall to where the timing has slipped by half a beat.
So now a crest from the left arrives with a trough from the right. One gap says up, the other says an equal down on the same patch at the same instant. And by the order you've drilled into me, I add those 2 heights first. Up plus an equal down. They
Finish it. Say what the combined wave is, right there, before you square a thing.
nothing. They cancel. The combined wave is dead flat, no height at all. The up and the down wipe each other clean. And then, following the order, I square the nothing. And nothing multiplied by itself is still nothing. So the chance is nothing, not 1 dot, ever. A dark band, a barred spot, sitting right between 2 bright ones.
Dead center between 2 bright ones. Now mark what made it. The 2 waves annihilated each other before the squaring got its turn. The cancelling went first, while the minus was still alive to do it. The squaring came second and found nothing left to work on. That order is the fence. Now let me tempt you into doing it the wrong way round so you feel why it matters.
Tempt me. What if I'd squared first, like my very first instinct said, each slit's chance on its own, then add the 2?
Then take each wave alone and square it before adding. The crest squared is a positive chance. The trough squared is also a positive chance. Its minus died the instant you squared it. The machine ate it. Now you've 2 positive chances side by side, and the last step is to add them. So add them. What comes out?
A bigger positive. 2 chances can only ever heap up. Add and add, never take anything away, because there's no minus left to do the taking. So squaring first hands me a bright spot, exactly where the real world shows a dead dark one. Square then add builds two dull heaps and no fence at all. It's the pebble answer. My wrong prediction from last week, walking back in the door.
Precisely. Two dull heaps and no stripes. So the fence isn't merely waves add up, it's that you must add them while they can still cancel, while the minus signs are alive, and square only the finished total. Do it in that order, the dark bands live. Do it the other way, they vanish, and you're back to heaps of pebbles.
So my first instinct tonight, square each slit, add the two chances, was the pebble instinct in disguise. It's what a sane person does with odds, and it's what builds two heaps. The whole trick is refusing to do the sane thing until the very last moment.
That's the whole discipline. Add the mad way first, keep every option raw and signed and able to cancel. Only when the adding's done do you turn sane and square. Do the sane step too early and you've thrown the quantum away and kept the pebbles. The order isn't a detail, it's the difference between two worlds.
So the striped mystery hangs on the order of two little operations. Add, then square. Cancel while you can, then cash it out. That's almost insultingly simple for a thing that broke my head for a fortnight.
And that's the beauty of it. The strangeness was never in the arithmetic. It's schoolroom stuff. The strangeness is that the world insists on this order. It adds possibilities before it squares them, when every instinct says square first and add the chances. Now point it back at the wound I left you with last week. The far slit, forbidding a spot from across the room. Tell me how, now.
It sent a trough. The far slit's wave arrives at that spot upside down, a trough, and it adds to the near slit's crest and cancels it flat to nothing before a single thing gets squared. The second door doesn't shove the electron off course. It lays down a below-the-line wave that subtracts from the first. And a probability could never do that. It has no below the line. It can only pile up. But an amplitude goes negative, so two can meet and wipe each other clean out. That's why opening a door can darken a room.
That's the whole of last week, paid off in a single breath. A probability can't reach across and take away. It has no minus. An amplitude carries one, so two can meet and annihilate to nothing. The fence lives in that one difference, and it survives only because you add the waves while they can still cancel and square last.
So the far slit never touched the electron. It added its own upside-down wave into the sum. The sum came out flat, and the squared flat is a dark band. A veto only an amplitude could cast, since a probability hasn't the minus to vote no with. Last week that looked like sorcery. Tonight it's arithmetic in the right order.
That's all the sorcery ever was. And carry this out the door. The two jobs happen in two rooms. The adding, the cancelling, all of it, down in the wave where the minus signs still breathe. The squaring up at the screen, turning the finished wave into odds. Two rooms, the adding room, the squaring room. Keep them apart and you'll never tangle it.
Good. And one at a time still holds straight through, doesn't it? Each lonely electron carries its own two-slit wave, adds it against itself, and lands as one dot weighted by the squared total. It never needed a crowd. It was interfering with its own spread of maybe, as you swore.
Not once. The wave belongs to each single electron and does its adding and cancelling by itself before the dot lands. So the fence builds up dot by lonely dot, each a throw weighted by the same wave. One throw tells you nothing, but the wave is the same for all of them, so throw after throw, the dots stack high where it ran tall and bare where it ran to nothing.
So each electron is rolling one loaded die, and the loading is the squared wave. One roll tells me nothing, a single dot anywhere allowed. It's only the 1,000 rolls, loaded the same way, that print the fence. The stripes are the loading made visible.
Exactly. And printed one throw at a time. Nothing steers any single dot to its spot. It falls where it falls, at random on the night. The fence is what randomness looks like once you weight it with a squared wave and wait. You weren't wrong that each electron lands somewhere random. You were wrong about what does the weighting.
So the fence was never a pattern the electrons got herded into from outside. It's the squared shadow of a wave that first added itself up, crests and troughs, cancelling here, doubling there. Printed slowly, one dot per throw, as thousands each roll the very same loaded dice. I think I finally believe it. Not that it happens. I can see the machine that makes it.
Then you've built it from the floor up. From two small parts. A wave whose height can dip below nothing, and a rule that says add the heights first, square the total last. That's the engine entire. Everything striped and impossible from last week runs on those two pieces.
One more thing on the fence before you move the wave. It's not one bright band and one dark. It's a whole row of them, marching across, loud, barred, loud, barred. That's the timing sliding steadily as I walk the wall, in step here, half a beat out further, back in step further still. So the row is the timing cycling, over and over, down the screen.
Just so. As you slide along the wall, the two waves drift steadily in and out of step. Together, opposed, together again. So the combined wave swells and cancels and swells. Square that, and you get bright, barred, evenly spaced all the way across. The fence is the timing cycling, made visible one square dot at a time.
And there are halftones between, surely, not just fully bright and fully barred, but everything from one to the other as the timing slides through the middle. A band that's half lit, where the two waves neither fully agree nor fully fight. So the fence is graded, brilliant at the peaks, barred at the nulls, and a wash of maybe in between.
A smooth cycle, yes. Brilliant, dimming, barred, brightening. Where the two waves half agree, they add to a middling height, and the square of that is a middling chance, a half-lit band. It goes fully dark only at the perfect clashes. So the wall isn't stripes and nothing. It's a swell of odds, peaking and nulling, and the dots pool wherever the squared wave ran deep.
So the wall is really a landscape, hills of likely and valleys of never, and the dots are rain falling on it, pooling in the hills, shunning the valleys. And the whole landscape is the squared wave, stood up where I can see it at last.
Keep that picture. It's true, rain falling weighted, heavy on the peaks, none in the valleys. But mind, the landscape you see is already the square. The raw wave that shaped it, its valleys dug below sea level, into the minus, you never see. Only the rain map it left.
Then let me hold that raw wave itself. I keep speaking of its height dipping below a line, as though it's water in a tray I could lean over and touch. Is it? Is there truly something sloshing between the slits and the screen? Real stuff I could dip a cup into and scoop a bit out?
No. And here's where people build the deepest wrong picture of the subject, so let me be flat. Nothing is sloshing. No substance thickening and thinning out there, nothing your cup would catch or your hand would brush across. The wave isn't made of stuff. Last week's water tray was a crutch, a good one, but a crutch. Kick it away now.
But if it isn't water, isn't the next guess that it's the electron itself, smeared out thin? The grain spread into a wave, part through the left slit, part through the right. You killed that last week, but say why again? Because with all this talk of a real wave crossing the room, I feel myself reaching for the smear again.
Reach for it, and it breaks in your hand, the same as last week. If the electron was smeared into the wave, it would land smeared. A bit here, a faint bit there, thin along the wall. It never does. It lands whole, one dot, full strength every time. So the thing that crosses isn't the electron thinned out. It shows up entire, at one spot. The wave is something else.
You've now taken every answer I brought and left me none. Not water, not the electron thinned out. So, for the third time tonight, the same stubborn question. If the wave isn't made of stuff, and isn't the electron itself, then what in the world is the thing that crosses the room, waving?
A wave of maybe, and I mean it as machinery, not poetry. The wave function is a full catalogue of the electrons could be, every place it might turn up, and how much each place weighs toward the odds, all held in one spread-out shape. Not the electron, not water. The complete ledger of where the one electron might be caught once the catching comes.
A catalogue of the maybe, not a puddle of the actual. But a catalogue is bookkeeping, figures in a ledger, and yet you keep insisting this ledger waves. It has crests and troughs. It rolls across a room. It cancels itself at the dark bands. That's vigorous conduct for a column of figures. How does a list of maybes interfere with itself like something wet?
That's the tension at the floor of this. How a catalogue of maybe can ripple and cancel like water nobody has fully cornered. But keep tight hold of what it does, even while what it is stays open under your feet. And it moves, no frozen ledger. It rolls and shifts and spreads as the electron flies across.
Open under my feet. I notice you keep saying that and not flinching. The thing does something precise, and what it is you leave dark. I'm starting to think that's not evasion. It's the place where what we know runs out.
Just there, and not a step before it. I can hand you the doing to the decimal. The being I can't hand you at all, nor can anyone alive. So I give you the doing and leave the being open, rather than paint a picture I'd only have to unpaint later. You'll thank me for the empty space where a comfortable lie could have sat.
Then let me test the catalogue against last week, because I want to know if it's more than a pretty word. I asked whether the wave was a weather forecast, a map of chances, rain likely here, dry there, and you said close but no. Is the squared wave the forecast then? The honest odds, the thing a forecast actually is?
A fine catch, and yes, the squared wave is a forecast you could trust. A map of odds, likely here, barred there. No troughs, no minus, nothing that cancels. But the wave before you square it is what a forecast never could be. It has troughs, it cancels. Two forecasts never wipe each other to nothing. Two of these do. The raw wave is more than a forecast. Its square is the forecast.
Ah, so the difference I couldn't name last week was the squaring. The forecast lives on the far side of the square, all positive, well-behaved. The strangeness, the cancelling, the far slit's veto, lives on the near side, where the minus signs still breathe. A forecast is what you get after you've thrown the signs away. The wave is what you had before.
The cleanest way to hold it, yes. And the movement, too, lives on the near side with a law of its own. A precise rule for how the raw wave rolls forward, moment to moment. Schrodinger's, as sure as anything in the clock course. But that engine is a night down the road. Tonight, the wave lives, it moves, and squaring turns it to odds.
Another engine at the curb with a sheet over it, Schrodinger's, for how the wave rolls. Fine. But here's what's begun to unsettle me. You've handed me a wave I can never actually watch, because everything I see on that screen is only the dots, and the dots are the square of the wave, never the wave itself. Is that right? What I look at is already the squared shadow.
That's right, and feel the weight of it. Every dot is one lone sample drawn from the squared wave. Never a glimpse of the wave beneath. Run it a year, gather 1,000,000 dots, and you'll reconstruct the odds beautifully. But what you've built is the square, the shadow the wave throws on the wall, not the wave that threw it.
So the part that does the real work, the troughs, the below-the-line half, the minus signs doing the cancelling, that one I never see directly, not once. The sign, the cancelling, exactly the part invisible to me, because squaring is the very thing that eats the sign on the way to my eye.
And there's the cruelty of it. The squaring hides the sign in the very act of showing you the dot. The below-the-line half leaves its fingerprints all over the fence, in every barred band it carved. But the trough itself, the raw minus, it never reaches your eye. You infer it from the stripes, reason it must be there, and still you cannot look at it.
Marvelous. So the single most important object in the theory, the thing that does every scrap of the real work, is the one thing I'm flatly forbidden to see. I get its shadow, dot by patient dot, and I'm to be grateful. It's like being handed a locked box, told it explains the entire world, and then told the lock itself is a law of nature.
That's fair enough. And there's one more piece folded inside it I've kept simple all night. I've let above or below the line stand in for everything the amplitude is. A height with a plus or a minus. That's the child's version, enough to carry the fence. But the true amplitude holds a touch more than a bare sign.
So even the negative, the thing I made peace with tonight, fought you over twice and swallowed, is a simplification you mean to complicate later. Wonderful. Park it behind the door with the rest of the loot. But flag it straight. Is the amplitude can go negative going to survive next week? Or am I about to be told I had even that wrong?
It survives. The negative is a true corner of the fuller thing, not a lie I'm walking back. Think of the amplitude as carrying a size and a way it points, like a clock hand somewhere round a dial. Straight down is your below the line. Squaring uses the size and washes the pointing away. Tonight the pointing barely mattered, so I let it hide. Next week, at the slits, it becomes everything.
So below the line is just the clock hand pointing one way, straight down, and there are all the other directions I've not been shown. But squaring only cares how long the hand is, not where it points, which is why I got a clean answer tonight without ever meeting the dial. The dial was there all along. It simply didn't matter for the odds, only for the adding.
For the adding, yes, and no further tonight. Hold it can go negative as true, and know there's a dial behind the sign will turn another night. Tonight the sign was enough. It got you the fence, the barred bands, the striped business. The dial is the refinement, not the correction. Nothing you learned tonight gets unlearned.
I'll hold you to that because I've done a lot of surrendering tonight, and I'd like some of it to stick. So the negative stays, the squaring stays, the add then square stays, and the dial is a richer story wrapped around the same bones. Good. Then give me the last of the housekeeping because I can feel there are rules on this catalogue I've not been handed yet.
There are two, both light, both worth carrying. Ask.
First, if the squared wave gives me the chance at every spot, and I walk round and add up that chance over every spot in the room, every last place the electron could possibly be, what does that grand total have to come to?
One whole certainty. Add the squared wave over every place there is, and the sum comes to 1, because the electron is, beyond argument, somewhere. It isn't allowed to half exist, nor to be findable to a place and a half's worth of odds. The catalogue must promise one arrival, somewhere, on every run.
So the odds everywhere, all summed, land on a single certainty, one electron, guaranteed to turn up somewhere, and the wave gets trimmed to make that true? You can't draw just any wave you fancy, it has to be scaled, so its squared total comes to 1, or it's promising a fraction of an electron, or 2 of them.
Just so. The wave is always scaled until its squared total comes to 1 flat certainty. A wave squaring to less would lose electrons. One squaring to more would conjure them from nowhere. Neither's allowed, so every wave, whatever shape it takes, is trimmed to promise one arrival. the ledger balancing, every maybe summed to a single yes.
So the wave's overall size is pinned, but its shape is free. Where it's tall, where it dips, where it cancels, all free. The total alone is fixed. Size pinned, shape free. And the shape is where the interesting physics lives. The size is the promise that one thing shows up.
That's the division exactly. The shape carries everything worth having. The fence, the bright bands, the barred spots. The scale is the bookkeeping that keeps the promise honest. One electron, found once, somewhere. Fix the promise and let the shape do the storytelling. Now the second fact, which you've dreaded since last week.
I have. You keep half saying the electron's wave can be in more than one arrangement at the same time. The both slits business, both roads alive at once. Is there a proper name for a wave holding two options in the one hand?
There is superposition. The wave function can be a sum of options all at once, here and there, this path and that, each riding with its own amplitude, all present together in the single wave. That's what both slits always was. Never the electron torn in two, but its wave holding both routes at the same instant, each with a height, the two adding and cancelling as they cross.
So that's the sum I've been doing all night, given its grand name. The left slit wave and the right slit wave, both real, both in the ledger together, adding and cancelling down in the wave room. Not the electron in two places. The catalogue listing two possibilities at once, each with its amplitude. The and is the whole of it, here and there, not here or there.
Here and there, not here or there. Hold that line hard because the or is the trap. While the wave crosses, it's the and, every option at once, adding, cancelling, building the fence. It's only when you look that it turns into an or, one slit or the other, one dot or elsewhere. The wave holds the and. The measurement forces the or.
And is it always two options? Only here and there, this slit and that? Or can the wave hold more than a pair at once, a whole crowd of maybes stacked in the one and?
As many as the electron has roads. Not two options, but every place it might be, all superposed at once, each with its own amplitude, all adding and cancelling across the room.
So two slits was the tidy case, cut down to a pair I could picture. The real wave is a sum over every could-be there is.
As wide as the possibilities run, and they run very wide indeed. The and spans every road the electron might take at once.
And then the moment I look, that vast crowd collapses down to the single answer I find. The wave was holding every road, and the instant I measure, it snaps to one dot. That snapping surely earns a rule of its own, the way the squaring did. Does it? Can you tell me how the and becomes an or?
A name tonight, a reckoning many nights from now. Collapse, we call it, the wave of many options lapsing to the one you find. How a mere look does that, why the spread catalogue snaps to a single dot the moment the world learns the answer, is an episode far down this road. I won't pretend to crack it here. Tonight, the name goes on the shelf, and no more.
And of the three engines under sheets, collapse is the one that itches most, because it's the join between the spread wave and the single dot, the exact seam last week turned on. You watch which slit, the wave snaps, the fence dies. You're telling me that seam itself, the snapping, is flatly unexplained.
That's the one. We can say what the wave does before, and what you find after, both to the decimal. The instant of the turn, how the many become the one, is the piece nobody has nailed. It has a name and a shelf tonight. It'll have a night of its own far along. The deepest of the parked engines, and I won't pretend otherwise.
Before I plant a flag and stroll home whistling, be square with me about the other thing, what we have not done tonight. I'd rather not walk out claiming more than the evening earned.
2 things, no more. We haven't touched why a look collapses the wave to 1 dot, a far later night. And we haven't settled whether the wave is a real object out in the world or our own bookkeeping. Nobody has to this day.
That second one stops me cold. You're telling me physicists can wield this wave, square it, predict the striped fence to the decimal, and still not agree among themselves whether the thing is even real? Whether it's out there like the electron is, or just a clever tally we keep in our heads to track the odds?
No, they don't. And it's genuinely open, not mysticism, just a plain question nobody's closed. Einstein leaned hard toward the tally. The wave is our incomplete bookkeeping, he'd say. A stand-in for a deeper reality the theory hasn't captured yet. Not the last word on what's really there. Others hold it's as solid as anything physics has ever handled. The dots come out identical, whichever way you believe.
And Einstein's tally is the off-the-hook story you talked me out of last week, isn't it? It really went through one slit, I just don't know which. Now it's wearing a founder's coat and a great deal more dignity. The ignorant story, dressed up in a good suit.
At root the same, yes, and the 2 slits already bruised it. A slit nobody used still voted. Still darkened spots, which pure ignorance could never manage. So the naive version, it truly took 1 slit, is dead. But the larger question, whether the wave is a real thing or a deep truth about our knowledge, the fence doesn't settle that. Only the comfortable little version of it died.
So it's a queer kind of not knowing, not we haven't measured the thing yet. More, the world hands back the very same fence whichever story is true, so no experiment yet can tell the 2 apart. A real wave crossing the room, or a bookkeeper's fiction that predicts everything perfectly, and the dots refuse to say which.
A question the dots themselves can't decide, because both stories square to the same wall. I'd rather leave it open than dress a confident answer up as fact. People sell certainty here the physics doesn't own. What it owns is the rule, the squaring, and it works flawlessly, whatever the wave is made of. That much you can trust with your life.
Then I'll take the rule and leave the metaphysics on the shelf beside the engines. I can live inside we don't yet know what it's made of. It sits better than a confident answer that turns out to be fancy dress. And it fits the grains by the fire. Nobody chose any of this for being beautiful. It was forced, a wave that dips below 0, and a rule that squares it. Hard, dull, immovable facts. The strangeness was forced, not dreamed.
Forced, not dreamed. Cornered out of plain arithmetic done in a particular order. No candles, no cosmic hum. A wave with a minus in it and a squaring at the end. That's the source of every impossible thing you've watched. Hold the wonder, but keep it downstream of the sums, where it was earned.
Agreed. And now take me to the very edge of next time. You've had a hand resting on that door since you first said, a touch more than plus or minus, and I've watched it hover all evening. If the negative is only 1 corner of the real amplitude, what's the rest of it? What's this dial you keep hinting sits behind the sign?
The dial is timing, a phase. Picture each amplitude not as a height above or below a line, but as a clock hand pointing somewhere round its face. Below the line is only the hand pointing one way. And when 2 amplitudes meet and you add them, you're adding 2 clock hands, tip to tail, and whether they build up or cancel depends on which way each points.
So my crest and trough business tonight was a flattened shadow of something spinning round a dial. I was seeing the hands only when they pointed dead up or dead down, and missing every angle between. And the adding, the cancelling, was really the hands agreeing or disagreeing on direction, not just on sign.
That's the door, and your hands on the latch. 2 hands pointing the same way add to a long one, a bright band. 2 pointing opposite cancel to a stub, a barred one. And every angle between does something in between. Your graded fence, the half-lit bands.
So the entire wall is clock hands, added tip to tail, and their angles alone decide the brightness. One rule all the way across. Instead of my crests and troughs, which were only ever the hands caught pointing dead up or dead down.
Just so. And it turns the squaring and the cancelling into a bookkeeping so clean it feels very nearly like a card trick, which, near enough, is what next week is.
And there's a person attached to this, isn't there? The way there's always a person waiting at the end of a good picture. You've got that particular look you get right before a name lands on the table. The clocks are somebody's. Whose?
Feynman's. The same one who called your two slits the only mystery there is. He built a way of doing the entire quantum by drawing a little clock hand for every path the electron might take, adding them all tip to tail and reading the odds off the total hand. Every path a clock. Add the clocks, square the total. Next time, the little clocks and Feynman's way of counting them up.
So even the two slits are the simplest case. Two paths, two hands. And I'd wager the reason the fence forms at all is those hands agreeing here and fighting there, all the way across. The negative I fought you over tonight is the hand pointing straight down. Next week, I meet all the other directions it can point.
And once you've got the clocks, all of tonight tightens into something you can turn in your hand. The amplitude, the squaring, the add then square, the barred bands, all of it becomes clock hands and their angles. Tonight you earned the picture. Next week you earn the machine that draws it. Same door, one room deeper in.
I'll be at it early, as ever. But before I go, let me do the thing I always do at the threshold. Say the night back to you in one breath, so you can hear whether it landed or slid straight off.
Go on then. The last word's yours, as it always is at the door. Say it, and I'll tell you if a single piece is out of place. Though I don't expect to be reaching for one tonight.
Then here it is. I walked in, clutching a fog and calling it the odds, and you showed me the fog dips below nothing, so it can't be the odds. It's an amplitude, a height with a sign on it, crests up and troughs down. Square that height and the sign folds away into an honest chance. Tall wave, a crowd of dots. Flat wave, none. Bourne's name on the rule. The fence I've mourned for a fortnight is only this. Add the waves while their minus signs are alive to cancel, then square the total, so a below-the-line trough can reach across the room and darken a spot no heap of plain chances could manage. I can never watch the wave itself, only its squared shadow, one dot at a time. Nobody can tell me whether it's real or just our ledger, and it holds every road at once, here and there together, until a look lands it on one. That's tonight, the name turned into a machine, and the squaring that carries maybe all the way to a mark on a wall. Next time, the little clocks. I'll be at the door early,